Greetings, Munchkins. Deadpool here. Tony's unavailable to do the intro right now because right now he's in the corner cry-eating Lindt truffles and ice cream.
No, I'm not. Subway.
Yeah, sure. Did anyone ever tell you sound like Chewbacca when you cry? Anyway, as you can tell, we're doing an audio commentary for X-Men Origins Wolverine, which I am anything but enthused about because, that's the film in which they sewed my fucking mouth shut. Anyway, if you have bad taste, X-Men Origins of Wolverine is available to stream on these platforms. Of course, that's always subject to change. Of course, if your internet goes out while you're in the middle of watching the Commentary Companions episode, tough shit. But anyway, also if you're unable to watch X-Men Origins Wolverine on streaming, you can always watch the movie on DVD if you have it on DVD. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy this commentary episode of X-Men Origins Wolverine. Hope you enjoy this commentary more than I had fun being in it. Fuck, I need a chimichanga. Welcome to Commentary Companions. I'm your host, Tony Garcia. Today, I'll be doing a commentary on X-Men Origins Wolverine. This is the official first spin-off of the X-Men franchise, and also the first in the solo Wolverine trilogy, and also the first official prequel of the X-Men franchise, and also the fourth installment, and the second X-Men film to not have the involvement of Bryan Singer. Whether that's a good thing or not is up for debate, given the benefit of hindsight. But of course, X-Men Origins Wolverine wasn't originally meant to be a Wolverine, at least it wasn't meant to be the beginning of the Wolverine franchise. Originally, X-Men Origins Wolverine was supposed to be the start of, well, it was supposed to be the beginning of a sort of franchise, sort of like an anthology spin-off series known as X-Men Origins. The idea was that it would focus on doing like origin stories for various characters that were part of the X-Men franchise. Like, aside from Wolverine, characters like Magneto, Beast, Angel, Cyclops, you get the idea. It would have told the origin stories of various X-Men characters. And given that Fox had the rights to the X-Men franchise, it made perfect sense why they would want to do something like this, like do something like an X-Men Origins spin-off series. And originally, Fox envisioned the idea of doing an X-Men spin-off about Magneto. So yeah, it would have been X-Men Origins Magneto, and it would have focused on Eric Lensher's origins as he became the mutant X-Men villain Magneto. And it would have had Sir Ian McKellen reprising his role as the young Eric Lensher, and they were going to portray Magneto by digitally de-aging McKellen, the same way they digitally de-aged him for X-Men The Last Stand. But I think I'm going to assume that they were going to try and make it be like they would try to make Sir Ian McKellen look like a 30-year-old or a 20-year-old. I mean, it sounds like an interesting idea in theory, but, given that Hugh Jackman's version of Wolverine was much more popular it made perfect sense why they would want to do an origin story about Wolverine. And so, we got Wolverine. Also, I have to say, the guy that plays James's biological father, Mr. Logan, he actually does look a lot like Liev Schreiber. That's pretty good casting on their part. Also, yeah, I remember being so shocked when I found out, wait, he's his actual father when I first saw the film when I was 12 years old in theaters. Yeah, I actually, like I said, I remember watching X-Men Origins Wolverine in theaters as a kid because I was such a big fan of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Oh, speaking of which, the Wolverine. Anyway, yeah, I remember being a big fan of it. I watched it, I think, around 3 times in theaters because, yeah, I liked it. Because, as a 12-year-old, my brain wasn't fully developed. And so, of course, I would have good taste in a film like this and think it was the greatest film of all time. I'm also a 12-year-old who thought that Transformers Revenge of the Fallen was a good film as well. Boy, was 12-year-old me naive. But anyway, yeah, I guess I should address the elephant in the room. Now, Logan and Victor are not brothers in the comics, but I think it really does help establish their definitive rivalry in this franchise. And yeah, for the most part, I'm almost convinced that they are brothers, half brothers anyway. Now, anyway, the music here is composed by Harry Gregson Williams. Let me double check that. Pardon me, I'm also, like I said, I'm simultaneously watching the film at the same time. And of course, this beginning music is definitely one of the best things about this movie. Yep. And I almost can't believe this is composed by the same guy who composed the music to the Shrek films, as well as the Tigger movie and the first two Narnia films, and many other films that I don't really have enough time to mention. But anyway, here, as you can tell, in this movie, Logan and Victor fight in the American Civil War, World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War. However, in the comics, Logan only participated in World War I and World War II, even teaming up with Captain America in World War II. And this is funny. When Logan fought with Captain America during that time, well, Steve Rogers used to nickname Logan Lucky Jim due to his healing factor. But anyway, yeah, a lot of audiences agree that the intro sequence with Logan and Victor fighting through every American war until the 1970s is a very well done, well filmed, a very well filmed sequence. Even I like it. It's a nice little history thing, and it's kind of crazy to think that Logan and Victor were fought during D-Day and stormed Normandy. It sounds unbelievable, but believe it. And pardon me while I just appreciate the music. And then it's also crazy to think, oh yeah, Logan would also then get captured in Japan and be a prisoner of war, and then save a Japanese soldier. Not like it would totally bite him in the ass later. Yep, and there's Nam. Vietnam, to be exact. Yeah, that's enough. Now, I think also, while in my review of X-Men Origins Wolverine, I pretty much criticized the film for its bad CG effects for the adamantium claws, and I still stand by it. But I think that the bone claws, CG for the bone claws, is very good. Those are good effects, in my opinion. They're definitely a redeeming factor. I wish that they put enough effort into the CG bone claws as they did for the adamantium claws. But that's my opinion. But yeah, I did not know that Tom Woodruff Jr., who helped with costume designs for Spider-Man, and also did various makeup. Did makeup for X-Men Origins Wolverine. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Of course, also the makeup was done by Alec Gillis, who has also done makeup for Starship Troopers, Prey, the Predator prequel. Try saying that 6th time. Alien Cubed, and as well as Predator Badlands and Alien Romulus. As you can tell here, we now get the appearance of William Stryker. Previously in X2, he was played by Brian Cox, who was played by To Perfection. Here, he's played by Danny Huston. Originally, if Brian Cox had been cast to play William Stryker here, he would have been digitally de-aged in order to look younger than he did in 2003. I mean, I do think that Danny Huston is very much very much well casted. I mean, Brian Cox really does capture the whole pretentious, holier-than-thou-art believer that mutants are an abomination from God, while Danny Huston does a great job portraying the military authoritarian figure. At least that's how I see it. And yeah, this was my first introduction to Danny Huston. I didn't know that his sister was Angelica Huston, who I remember best for playing the Grand High Witch in The Witches, and his father was director John Huston. Yeah, it's funny. I know some fans know Angelica Huston for playing Morticia Addams in the Addams Family movies, but I know her best for playing the Grand High Witch in The Witches from 1989. Also, yeah, a lot of Ryan Reynolds' lines here were improvised here to really show his wisecracking attitude. Now, Sabretooth wasn't originally an X-Men villain, as I've mentioned before in my Commentary Companions episode to the first X-Men movie, because, well, like I mentioned, he debuted in Iron Fist number 14 in 1977, created by Chris Claremont and John Byrne. Sabretooth first confronted the X-Men in Uncanny X-Men number 212. In that issue and number 213, he fought Logan in Xavier Mansion, establishing their definitive rivalry. 212 and 213 were both written by Chris Claremont. 212 was illustrated by Rick Leonardi, and 213 was illustrated by Alan Davis, published in 1986 and 1987, respectively. Now, originally, before Kevin Durand was cast as Fred Dukes, David Harbour auditioned for the role, but he was turned down for, ironically, being too fat. I mean, that's pretty ironic, given what we know later. And what's even funnier is that, well, this was also my first introduction to character actor Kevin Durand. I did not know that he would collaborate with Hugh Jackman again in Real Steel. I totally didn't recognize him. I also did not know that Kevin Durand was from Quebec. I didn't hear his natural Quebecian accent until I saw him in Abigail. I was really shocked. I mean, the dude is a chameleon. I mean, there's a reason he's called a character actor. I'll probably talk about when he made his comic book debut later, of, Fred Dukes. But yeah, Agent Zero is known as David North, and David North made his comic book debut in X-Men number 5 in February of 1992, created by John Byrne and Jim Lee. But yeah, I think you might find this interesting about Liev Schreiber playing Sabretooth. Now, Liev Schreiber was given a muscle suit to wear for his role as Victor Creed, similar to what Vinnie Jones wore in X-Men The Last Stand when he portrayed the Juggernaut, to make his physique look comparable to Hugh Jackman's 220-pound figure. The suit made Schreiber feel humiliated, and he requested a chance to gain real muscle. He trained for 3 months while filming Defiance in Lithuania, and continued to train alongside Jackman during filming. Jackman also made Schreiber add a great deal of protein to his diet, which Schreiber called, and I quote, the genocide of chickens. In the end, Liev Schreiber gained 40 pounds and had to buy several new suits due to his back gaining several inches in width. This is what he said verbatim. I can't fit into my favorite suit now, but I felt like I owed it to the genre to be big. Also, yeah, I love this scene, like this elevator scene, which is it's pretty funny. It's just like then elevator stops, and then Chris has to pretty much has to restart it with his electrical powers. Also, I didn't know that the actor playing Chris Bradley was Merry the Hobbit in the Lord of the Rings films. Then go to sleep. But yeah, Chris Bradley made his comic book debut in X-Men Unlimited number 8 in October of 1995, created by Howard Mackie, Tom Grummett, and Dan Lawless. When Chris Bradley made his comic book debut, ironically, he was saved by Jean Grey and Gambit when he first got his powers. which I find quite interesting. And Also, this is quite a way to introduce, Wade Wilson. Back then, I was not familiar with Deadpool, and I was not familiar with Ryan Reynolds. This film, along with his performance in The Proposal, co-starring Sandra Bullock, was my first introduction to Ryan Reynolds. When I saw him in The Proposal, I totally didn't recognize him from X-Men Origins Wolverine. I feel like such an idiot for not realizing that. But quite a surprise. I mean, for the limited amount of screen time that Ryan Reynolds is in, he's pretty good. Also, I'm not gonna lie. I thought that at first Wade was Stryker's son, but boy was I wrong. Now, John Wraith, who's played by Will.i.am, this was his live-action debut. Well, John Wraith, the character, made his comic book debut in Wolverine number 60, published in September of 1992, created by Larry Hama and Mark Silvestri. I didn't know that. But yeah, this film was also my first introduction to Liev Schreiber. Back then, I didn't know who Liev Schreiber were. I didn't know who Liev Schreiber was, and I'd never seen him in his performance as Cotton Weary in the first three Scream films. So yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine was my first introduction to Sabretooth. And like I said, I described him as he plays Sabretooth perfectly well here. I think his performance is superior to Tyler Mane's performance in the first X-Men film. I mean, he really, despite the fact that Liev Schreiber is a few inches shorter than Tyler Mane, I mean, he makes up for that with this intimidating presence, and he's like this mean motherfucker who would pick a fight with you at a bar, kick your ass, and then steal your girl and brag about it on top of it because he's an asshole. And Liev Schreiber plays him perfectly. And I also think Liev Schreiber did a great job voicing Kingpin in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I just wanted to mention that. Oh yeah, like that sadistic smile. That's a guy who takes pleasure in what he does, and yeah, it's like that escalated quickly. Now, as I've mentioned before, Wolverine made his comic book debut in Incredible Hulk number 180 in a cameo, and a full appearance in Incredible Hulk number 181 in 1974, created by the late Len Wein and the late Herb Trimpe, and with contributions by the late John Romita Sr. and Roy Thomas. I mentioned Roy Thomas reluctantly because, well, the closest to a contribution that Roy Thomas ever made was by suggesting the name Wolverine. And that's as close to a contribution as he got, but I don't really view that as a co-creation credit. I mean, I'll give Stan Lee credit. He only suggested the name The Punisher for that villain and refused a co-creator credit for that, because all he did was contribute a name, and that was it. And I wish Roy Thomas had gotten that, had pretty much humbly not asked for a co-creator credit as well. Of course, a few issues later, Wolverine would make his debut in an X-Men comic, specifically in Giant Size X-Men number 1 in 1975, and Wolverine would become a full-time member in X-Men number 94 in August of 1975. Now, Giant Size X-Men number 1 was written by Len Wein, his co-creator, and illustrated by Dave Cockrum. And, of course, X-Men number 94 was written by Chris Claremont and the late Len Wein, and was illustrated by Dave Cockrum and Bob McLeod. Now, in X-Men number 94, that issue is notable for pretty much notable for having the X-Men's co-founders, Angel, Iceman, and Jean Grey, all resigned from the team. And this was back when Jean Grey was known as Marvel Girl. I don't understand why in the live-action films, Famke Janssen's portrayal of Jean Grey didn't have her be known as Marvel Girl, but I guess that would have been a little silly. I mean, why not call herself Marvel Woman? What, to avoid confusion with Miss Marvel? Not like that would make a difference. And so we are introduced to Kayla Silverfox, played by Lynn Collins. I didn't realize that she was Native American as a kid, and I guess I can understand why a lot of people are angry about a Caucasian actress playing a Native American woman, especially since, well, I'm Hispanic and I'm of Mexican descent, and Mexicans descend from a Native American tribe in Mexico. So yeah, I can understand why people would be offended by that. But I was a kid. Even I didn't know this. No one would. If any 12-year-old were in my position at the time. But yes, I do believe they could have gotten a Native American actress to play Kayla Silverfox. Now, Kayla Silverfox made her comic book debut in Volume 2 of Wolverine number 10 in August of 1989, created by Chris Claremont and John Buscema. And here's a crazy fact. I did not know this until I did my research. Kayla works for Hydra. Yeah, the sworn enemy of Captain America and various Marvel heroes, which threw me for a loop. And I really like how Chris Bradley, of course, managed to get a nice job as doing carnival stuff. And yeah, this does look like a nice, fun little carnival. But yeah, I had never seen Lord of the Rings beforehand, so I didn't know that the guy playing him was best known for playing Merry the Hobbit. And, but yeah, he's very much blends in. It's like, I love this gimmick, I do wonder how they filmed that. Yep. Oof. That's gotta hurt. Yep, because I'm a mutant. Jerk. But also, I have to say, I love the inside of Chris's crib. It's like it's full of electrical stuff, all kinds of toys and electrical things. It's just fun. It's like I was impressed with this as a kid, and this little electric toy train. I really do wish I could have gotten into electrical trains when I was a kid. Yeah, I never got into trains, but I'm into Transformers, of course. And of course, I'm thinking of getting a Astro Train again. Yep. Surprise, bitch. Yeah, that's... Oh, what's the matter, chicken? Oh, there's the monkey with the symbols. You could say please. Oh, well, okay. I'll give Chris Bradley credit. He was a gentleman. Spoilers. But yeah, this is kind of ironic because, like I said in the comics, Jean Grey and Gambit pretty much rescued Chris Bradley. Now, in the flashback to Africa, a young black girl with white hair was seen. This is the young Ororo Monroe, otherwise known as Storm, who would later on be part of the X-Men. This scene was removed from the final cut, but appears as a deleted scene in the DVD. Now, of course, it's actually X-Men Origins Wolverine marks the second time in which Hugh Jackman collaborated with Liev Schreiber. Now, Hugh Jackman recommended Liev Schreiber after collaborating with him on Kate and Leopold. Now, of course, Hugh Jackman described Schreiber as having the necessary competitive streak to play Sabretooth. And this is fun. Well, maybe I'll say it later. But yeah, not only was Kate and Leopold the first time that Hugh Jackman had collaborated with Liev Schreiber, it was also notable for being the first movie in which Hugh Jackman would collaborate with director James Mangold, who would later on direct The Wolverine and Logan. And, yep, now that line of saying which war, all of them, that sounds like something he would say. Now, on March 31st, 2009, before the movie was officially theatrically released, a bootleg copy of the movie was leaked online. The copy had no watermark, unfinished alternate visual effects, and a different font for the credits. But by the time the movie officially released in theaters in 2009, it had been downloaded about 4.5 million times. Roger Friedman, a reporter for Fox News, wrote an adverse review of the movie based on the leaked copy. He even described how easy it was to find and download the movie. His review was immediately removed, and he got fired. Back when news reporters would get fired for pulling shit like that. But anyway, I can confirm X-Men Origins Wolverine right now takes place in 1979. Now, Brian Cox was interested in reprising his role as Stryker from X2, using the digital skin grafting visual effects used in X-Men 3 on Sir Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen. The filmmakers thought it would be easier and cheaper to cast a younger actor instead, and thus Danny Huston was cast. Now, this is kind of funny. Every Friday throughout production, Hugh Jackman gave out lottery tickets to everyone on set. Unfortunately, nobody ever won. Typical, I mean, most lottery tickets are a bunch of scams anyway. If only my dad knew that. Now, I have to respect Hugh Jackman for this. Hugh Jackman underwent a high-intensity weight training regimen to improve his physique for the role. He altered the program to shock his body into change and also performed cardiovascular workouts. Jackman noted no digital touches were applied to his physique in a shot of him, rising from the tank within which Wolverine has his bones infused with adamantium. Spoilers. But yeah, Hugh Jackman earned $25 million for this movie. I love that comeback. Yeah, and I'm totally not behind all this. Now, Tyler Mane, who played Sabretooth in the first X-Men film, requested he reprise the role, but he was turned down by the filmmakers who wanted a younger actor for the movie. And the log cabin in the wilderness was constructed on a hillside in New Zealand. Unfortunately, because of incessant and very noisy high winds, the set had to be dismantled and rebuilt in a studio. Probably the 20th Century Fox studio in Hollywood. Now, oh, I love this line. Hell yeah! Anyway, Gavin Hood said the line about being stuck in an elevator with 5 guys on a high-protein diet was improvised by Ryan Reynolds, who actually made the comment when stuck in the small space with the actors who were all on high-protein diets for their physiques. Now, Gavin Hood described this movie's central theme as Wolverine's inner struggle between his animalistic and human qualities. I realize that Wolverine's great appeal lies in the fact that he's someone who, in some ways, is filled with a great deal of self-loathing by his own nature, and he's constantly at war with himself. Well, I love how his claws are this close to popping out of his knuckles. Now, Brian Barber wanted to direct the film and spent 3 weeks and $50,000 of his own money on an elaborate presentation for Fox executives. Although he didn't get the job, Fox was so impressed with the presentation that they reimbursed him. Well, that's nice. Now, Hugh Jackman collaborated with the writers on the script as he wanted the movie to be more of a character piece compared to the other movies in the franchise. And the co-writer, David Benioff, aimed for a darker and more brutal story and wrote the script with an R rating in mind. Producer Hugh Jackman did not see the need for it, however, and the script was toned down to a safer PG-13. Wolverine, the 2013 sequel, was also PG-13 but would later be released on Blu-ray in an R-rated version as well, while the third Logan was released theatrically with an R rating. And of course, Gavin Hood and top 20th Century Fox executive Tom Rothman reportedly had clashes over the movie's creative direction. One infamous incident happened while Hood was offset, at which point Rothman took it upon himself to have one of the sets repainted from Hood's original dark theme into something lighter. Also, yeah, I do love the myth of this Wolverine. Also, you'll find this funny. Hugh Jackman was offered the role of Tony Stark in Iron Man, but he had to turn it down to work on X-Men Origins Wolverine. I think, I'm not sure whether to think that was a good decision or not. Of course, Liev Schreiber was originally considered for the role of William Stryker, but he requested to take Victor Creed as he found that role more interesting. Also, speaking of Creed, I am not 100% sure if he pretty much hooked up with Mystique at this time during the 6-year gap. It'd be funny if it turned out he did, since in the comics, Sabretooth and Mystique hooked up, had a kid who's a non-mutant son known as Graydon Creed, who's a straight-up villain who pretty much is the founder of the Friends of Humanity. Of course, I'm referencing the 1992 cartoon, but I do think Graydon Creed is an interesting villain. In one scene, a black vintage Mercedes-Benz can be spotted moving around. This was the vehicle of Charles Xavier and Eric Lensher used in the beginning of X-Men The Last Stand. Also, X-Men Origins Wolverine is the first movie to insert the X-Men characters into real-world historical events, such as the American Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, and the 1979 Three Mile Island accidents. But yeah, according to David Benioff, the script was influenced by Wolverine-centered comics Wolverine from 1982, Weapon X from 1991, and Origin from 2001, the latter being Benioff's favorite comic. Oof. Okay, hold on. I just need to look up the behind-the-scenes drama of X-Men Origins Wolverine. Scenes... Okay, but yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine was plagued by intense behind-the-scenes conflict, including constant script changes during the writer's strike, clashes between Gavin Hood and Tom Rothman, as I mentioned, and a leaked work print that caused further turmoil, which I mentioned also. Despite Hugh Jackman's collaborative efforts, the film was criticized for its chaotic production and deviation from the intended darker vision. I mean, Gavin Hood experienced a baptism of fire, facing heavy interference from Tom Rothman, who reportedly ordered sets to be repainted against the director's wishes. Filming began in January 2008 with an incomplete script due to the writer's strike, leading to daily rewrites even after the strike concluded. And the studio pushed back against this darker, R-rated, character-driven story envisioned by David Benioff and Hugh Jackman, aiming to reduce scenes focusing on Logan's guilt and trauma. And of course, this resulted in Hugh Jackman feeling very disappointed with the final product. Also, I wanted to point this out. X-Men Origins Wolverine is also the last film in which there would be a toy line. And yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine had a toy line from Hasbro, and it would also be one of the last live-action X-Men films in which they would get a movie tie-in toy line from Hasbro. And it would be a long time until around maybe Deadpool and Logan, in which those movies would get their own Marvel Legends toy tie-in. And not only that, but X-Men Origins Wolverine got a video game tie-in as well. And whereas the movie's rated PG-13, the X-Men Origins Wolverine video game is rated M for mature. That video game is also notable for being the first X-Men video game to ever receive an M for mature video game rating. And not only that, but the video game is also one of the... it's also the last movie video game tie-in that the X-Men franchise would ever receive after that. And but yeah, like X-Men Origins Wolverine, it would be the last film to ever get a video game tie-in, because after that they stopped doing licensed movie video game tie-ins for the X-Men franchise. Meanwhile, Spider-Man would get a few, but of course that's a story for another time. But yeah, that would be the last. But I hear that the video game is actually better than the movie. I mean, it's an M for mature video game, so Wolverine can be as violent as he wants, which I think it benefits from the M for mature rating. And also, interestingly enough, the video game is also the second time in which Hugh Jackman voices Wolverine for a video game. In fact, most of the actors from the movie reprise their roles to voice their video game counterparts. The only one who did not reprise his role from the movie was actually Ryan Reynolds. He did not return to voice Wade Wilson due to the backlash of his character, which I'll talk about later. The obvious elephant in the room. But anyway, in Ryan Reynolds' place, Wade Wilson was voiced by Steve Blum. Or is it Steve Blum? I'll just call it... I'll just pronounce it as Steve Blum. I'm sure you might get the idea if I mention Steve Blum. But yeah, Steve Blum voiced Wade Wilson in the X-Men Origins Wolverine video game. And which is, I think, is pretty funny, because this means he has shared the role of Hal Jordan and Deadpool with Ryan Reynolds, among another actor who has shared the role of Green Lantern and Deadpool with Ryan Reynolds. Those two other actors are Will Friedle and what's his name? And Nolan North. Of course, Will Friedle voiced Kyle Rayner, and while Steve Blum and Nolan North voiced Hal Jordan, which I think is pretty funny. Anyway, my main point with X-Men Origins Wolverine is that I should have said in my review, and I guess my arch enemy pretty much said this to me, and I think I do have to agree with my arch enemy on this. If you want a better version of X-Men Origins Wolverine, I would fully recommend you play the video game. The video game is a better experience. Yeah, I mean, the whole hack and slash thing gets a bit redundant after a while, but it's still a better experience than the movie, even if it does have some of the elements that didn't work. But yeah, I would totally recommend you play X-Men Origins Wolverine. I am probably not going to do a video game live stream of playing X-Men Origins Wolverine for several reasons. I mean, for one, I do not have a video game console, and I do not own the video game to X-Men Origins Wolverine, so I am ruling out the possibility of doing a live stream. So I am not going to do a live stream playing X-Men Origins Wolverine, the video game. Sorry, but I don't own the tech, and I wouldn't know how to do a live stream anyway. I'm kind of inept in that period. Go bother my enemy Colin Reisenauer about doing a Wii live stream if you're so bothered with me unable to do a live stream to X-Men Origins Wolverine. Gosh, I'm getting a bit off subject. But, yeah. Now, before Danny Houston was cast as William Stryker, Michael C. Hall, best known for playing Dexter, was considered for the role as well. Also, fun fact: James Hallett's bedroom at the beginning of the film has a picture of a Wolverine, foreshadowing his mutation in later title. Now, Gavin Hood has stated that the scripting process was a mess and that portions of the screenplay were hastily rewritten as the movie was filming, partly due to the writer's strike, which also affected Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. In a Q&A with Kevin Smith, Edgar Wright revealed he was offered the role of Chris Bradley by the producers. He declined, citing he wasn't a good enough actor. Hugh Jackman called him, along with other producers of the movie, with the impression that he had said yes to the role. Wright later emailed Jackman to politely decline the role. I mean, hey, Edgar Wright is a good director. You should all watch Shaun of the Dead. Now, Gavin Hood compared the relationship between Logan and Victor Creed to the tennis rivalry between players Bjorn Borg and John McEnroe. Victor hates Logan because he loves and needs his brother, but is too proud to admit he wants him back. So it's a process of,
We hate him, we hate him, we love him, we love him.
money shot, roll credits. Of course, Carl Urban and Gerard Butler were considered for the part of Victor Creed as well. Now, the movie was delayed by the weather in Australia, as well as Hugh Jackman's commitments for the 2008 Australia movie. Now, like I said, Gavin Hood wanted to make Wolverine suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder from his army years, but 20th Century Fox vetoed the idea as too heavy a theme for a comic book movie. Joke's on Fox, as 8 years later, we'd get one of the best Wolverine movies ever. Now, Hugh Jackman was set to work on this film immediately after finishing X-Men: The Last Stand, and it was the first film produced by his studio, Seed Productions, which he co-founded in 2006. However, shooting was delayed to 2008, and Deception ended up being Seed's first film. Unfortunately, Seed was ultimately closed in 2010, leaving these as its only two films: Deception and X-Men Origins Wolverine. Now, controversy arose as the Queenstown Lakes District Council disputed the Department of Labor's decision to allow 20th Century Fox to store explosives in the local ice skating rink. Fox moved some of the explosives to another area. The explosives were used for a shot of the exploding Hudson Farm, a scene which required 13 cameras. Hugh Jackman and Waz Productions reached an agreement with the council to allow recycling specialists on set to advise the production on being environmentally friendly. In some scenes, Wolverine's claws were created through computer graphics imagery, CGI for short, since the props being used in those scenes looked obvious. Yeah, I think I would have liked it better if the claws were actual practical props. But hey, what do I know? In response to criticism from fans over Lynn Collins being cast as Kayla Silverfox, Collins reassured fans by claiming to have Native American ancestry. Sure. Now, the story by Kayla about Kwea Kwatsu and the moon had some historical roots. The legend's origins come from Innu Naskapi and James Bay Cree tribes. More often than not, the legend is referred to as Karkaju. Karkaju is the Innu Wolverine, a conniving trickster character who lies, cheats, and is greedy. Unlike Wolverine characters in some Algonquian mythologies, Kwekuatsu is not malevolent, violent, or dangerous, and Innu stories about him are usually humorous in nature. Now, the characters depicted in the movie are the result of three generations of X-Men creators. Wolverine and Sabretooth being created by Len Wein, John Romita, Chris Claremont, and John Byrne, respectively, back in the 1970s. Deadpool is a product of Fabian Nicieza and Rob Liefeld's work on the title during the 1990s. And, of course, characters created by Stan Lee make cameo appearances towards the end of the film. Now, oh, he heard that. Oh, he heard that too. And he does not like that. I do like the CG of the claws coming out of his bones through X-ray. I remember using this scene in my review, and I just had so much fun just using the scream. And I love this money shot of him when he was using his claws to form an X to get out. Now, Daniel Henney is of South Korean and Irish descent and is American by nationality. However, his character Agent Zero is actually German by ethnicity and nationality in the comics. In fact, Zero, who is better known as Maverick in the comics, is portrayed as a cold-hearted, ruthless marksman, which is opposite to his comic book counterpart. In addition, Maverick has to build up kinetic energy by movement or hitting something. However, this movie hints that he can absorb and alter kinetic energy, giving him enhanced gunfire and marksman abilities, and he is also shown being capable of moving faster and jumping higher than a normal human. That sounds about right. Let's see, where's that fact? This is why I screenshot some of my facts. Where is that Oh, yeah, okay. Originally, Logan was supposed to run into the woods after escaping the Alkali Lake lab, but during the location scouting in New Zealand, director Gavin Hood discovered the waterfall seen in the film and decided to use that, having Logan dive into it to escape. Strategically filmed to preserve his modesty and achieve the desired PG-13 rating. Now, Bryan Singer and Brett Ratner, Len Wiseman, Alexandra Aja, and Zack Snyder all expressed interest in directing this movie before Gavin Hood was hired. I do wonder how Zack Snyder would have directed X-Men Origins Wolverine. But anyway, Hugh Jackman recommended Gavin Hood as director, noting parallels between Logan and the hero of Hood's previous movie, Sotsai. Now, production went into difficulties due to creative conflicts between Gavin Hood and the studio. Richard Donner had to fly to the set to ease tensions. Now, Gavin Hood was attracted to the project because, as a South African, he could relate to the idea of mutants versus humans segregation. He was particularly keen on concentrating on the personal angle to the movie instead of all the pyrotechnics. Also, Hugh Jackman and Liev Schreiber are the only Tony Award winners in this movie, as well as the only ones to also be nominated for Golden Globes. Now, when I was 12, I thought that this scene of Logan admiring his adamantium claws was cool. It seemed like a cool scene, but my God, this scene just does not hold up 16 years later. It is crazy because X-Men Origins Wolverine came out 1 year after The Incredible Hulk and Iron Man. And I used a clip of Bruce Banner, Edward Norton's Bruce Banner, transforming into the Hulk from the 2008 movie to compare the visual effects unfavorably. I was tempted to also use the scene where Tony Stark first suits up in the red and gold armor from the first Iron Man movie to really show how, despite the fact that Iron Man was made 1 year before X-Men Origins Wolverine. The special effects to Tony Stark suiting up into the red and gold Iron Man armor hold up much better than these god-awful computer graphic claws from X-Men Origins Wolverine. And it's like, yeah, I expect so much better. And yeah, it's crazy. It feels like X-Men Origins Wolverine was made in a different decade. And I do not say that as a compliment. It's kind of like saying that Superman 4 and Batman from 1989 feel like they were made in a different decade. That's the kind of unfavorable comparison I compare it to. I mean, yeah, Batman feels completely different from Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. And that film was released 2 years after Quest for Peace was made. And Superman 4: Quest for Peace pretty much killed Christopher Reeve's career and killed the Superman franchise entirely, especially due to its piss-poor effects and studio interference. But yeah, that, like I said, that's completely my opinion, and maybe I don't really have the credibility to criticize Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, because that film and Superman 3 are the only films in the Christopher Reeve Superman franchise that I have not seen, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think I'm really obligated to really watch Superman 3 and Superman 4 if I don't want to, especially since they're considered the worst of the franchise, so I don't think I will watch Superman 3 and Superman 4. Why should I? I mean, they're probably so awful that they make James Gunn's Superman look like a masterpiece in comparison. Superman, directed by James Gunn, by the way, is one of the best Superman films I've ever watched, and I will stand by that. I will die on that hill believing in that. Whew. Gosh, that really took a lot out of me. Yeah, I thought that it's interesting. I thought, why do you call him son? But I guess son is kind of, just slang, And that's how we got that iconic leather jacket we would see in the later films, which I think is an interesting detail. Yeah, it's like, it looks so well worn after 20 years. Never thought of it that way, but it makes perfect sense. But man, Hugh Jackman looks awesome in leather jackets. Now, throughout the movie, Logan wears, and I think the brown and yellow motorcycle jacket might be a reference to his alternative brown and yellow costume that Wolverine wore in the comics in the 1980s, which was designed by John Byrne, which definitely is one of my favorite costumes. Yep, don't get too attached to these people. Yep, see what I mean? Kind of felt pointless to get attached to these two. Now, director Gavin Hood spent time in the military, and he used his experiences with other soldiers suffering from PTSD to characterize Logan and his emotional problems. Now, more than 1,000 shots have visual effects in them, which required 3 visual effects supervisors and 17 different companies to work on the movie. The most prominent was Hydraulics, who had also worked on the first 3 X-Men movies, and was responsible for the battle in 3 Mile Island and Gambit's powers. Spoiler. But yeah, Hydraulics is spelled Hydraulx. In the week prior to this movie's release, Marvel published the Wolverine Weapon X Files one-shot comic book featuring profiles of many of the characters in this movie, including Wolverine, Sabretooth, Deadpool, Agent Zero, John Wraith, Silver Fox, Gambit, Blob, and Stryker, despite some of the characters not being involved with Weapon X in the comics, and some characters, like Stryker, being vastly different in this movie than their comic book predecessors. Also, this is a sad fact. X-Men Origins Wolverine was Richard Donner's final production credit before his death in 2021. I mean, it does add up, I think. Yeah. I mean, his last directorial effort was 16 Blocks from 2006, which is 20 years ago. I think I may need to stop this commentary and pretty much take a nap. But yeah, he was an executive producer for X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's funny how I mentioned him and referenced Christopher Reeve as Superman, since one of Richard Donner's most defining aspects was his involvement in directing the first two Superman films. But yeah, I did not know this. Also, yeah, it's really cool seeing this motorcycle scene. I thought it was cool when I was a kid. Yeah. And yeah, that's kind of cool seeing him use the claws to destroy that truck. I mean, the action junkie in me finds that pretty cool. Now, Liev Schreiber had studied to be a fight choreographer and wanted to be a dancer like Hugh Jackman, so he enjoyed developing and filming the Logan Creed fights. And it's really nice to know that Jackman and Schreiber are good friends in real life. Whoa, that's seeing him just cut down the helicopter planes. I mean, that's so cool. Also, I have to really respect Hugh Jackman. Pretty much did a lot of these stunts. I mean, the stunts are definitely the redeeming factor in this film. Now, during rehearsal for the scene in which Logan wakes up in the operating room, director Gavin Hood was trying to explain to the actor playing the doctor what was going to happen. Hugh Jackman spontaneously grabbed Hood and slammed him against the wall to demonstrate the action to the actor. Unbeknownst to Jackman, this gave Hood whiplash, which made it difficult for him to move his neck for several weeks. I feel bad for him. Yeah, sure you will. Now, originally, Logan was scripted to kill Agent Zero by stabbing him, but director Gavin Hood was worried this would cause problems for the PG-13 rating. On the day of shooting, Harold Hood saw the leaking fuel and decided to have Logan do something with his claws that they hadn't seen, to create a spark against the gravel and light the fuel on fire. The result was ironically a more violent but bloodless death, as well as cause for a hero shot of Hugh Jackman walking away from the fireball. I mean, personally, yeah, I think it's one of the most badass things ever, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's about as cool as Ghost Rider on his motorcycle. And of course, now it's ruined with the bad CG claws. But yeah, I certainly do remember this shot. Money shot. Now, Michelle Monaghan was offered the role of Kayla Silverfox, but though she wanted to work with Hugh Jackman, she had to turn it down due to scheduling conflicts. Now, the weather during the scene in which Stryker came to recruit Logan back into the team was unpredictable, with rain falling off and on. There was little time to set up and light each actor between rain showers, so most of the scene was shot with Steadicam rather than on a tripod. Also, Maggie Q was considered for the role of Kayla Silverfox. And this is what David Henney had to say about playing David North, which he relished. He says, and I quote, "There are no restrictions playing it, allowing you freely to express it, so you can act how you want to." Now, interestingly, David Ayer wrote an early version of the screenplay. Now, Scott Summers was not meant to be in the film in early drafts. Also, yeah, apparently, Will I Am did not get along with the casting director, but he was really glad to be in the role. And fun fact, he accidentally scraped his knuckles, accidentally hitting a camera for one shot. Now, the explosion of the barn was a one-take practical effect, with the barn's exterior being built just to be blown up. The interior shots were done on a soundstage. Gavin Hood claims there were 11 cameras on the barn to capture the explosion. Similarly, the crashing helicopter was a practical effect, suspended from a crane with the wires removed digitally. This shot also had only one take because the production couldn't afford a second one. And Hood detailed that during shooting in Australia, script pages would be sent from Los Angeles at times in the night prior to them being filmed. Now, wasn't that fun? And James Vanderbilt and Scott Silver did uncredited rewrites on the screenplay. Which is stupid. I actually thought that it was Fred at first. Now, the Blob made his comic book debut in X-Men number 3, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Also, yeah, like I said, I really do think that that Blob suit, which was totally done practically, is definitely one of the coolest highlights of makeup, even if it barely leaves an impact in the film. In fact, but I remember seeing the promo of Blob on a straw. But yeah, it took 7 hours. It took 7 hours to put Kevin Durant into that fat suit, and they actually had to put a tube in there to make sure he stayed cold and not overheat. And it also took 3 to 4 hours to remove the suit from it. And also, I think you're going to find this funny. Now, like I said, David Harbour auditioned for the role of Blob, but he was considered too fat for it, like as I mentioned before. And he was actually kind of disgruntled about this because you turned down a guy for being too fat to play the Blob, which is funny because he would then play Red Guardian in the Black Widow movies, well, Black Widow and Thunderbolts. Now, the scene in Nigeria was inspired by director Gavin Hood's roots in South Africa. In particular, the shanty town outside of the office building resembled those seen in his earlier film, Sotsea. Of course, this and the office building were shot in Vancouver rather than Africa. Ooh, he's seeing stars. Timber! Also, I'm not gonna lie, it is kind of cool seeing his claws pop out of the boxing gloves. Now, Quentin Rampage Jackson turned down the role of John Wraith to focus on his MMA career. He credited his loss against Rashad Evans to his preoccupation with filming the A-Team, saying, "I took the time off instead of preparing, and I paid the price for it." Now, Brian Cox is only 10 years older than Danny Houston when Houston plays the young William Stryker. Okay, yeah, so Jackman, Schreiber, and Will.i.am reprised their roles for X-Men Origins Wolverine. Danny Houston did not voice Stryker in the video game. Sorry, I'm just still looking up the facts. But yeah, Tim Pocock plays the young Scott Summers here, and he described this movie as Scott's big transition moment when Scott goes from a troubled teenager to a leader in the span of the movie. Why was the post-credit scene added in X-Men Origins Wolverine? Sorry, I'm looking up this very specific fact that I will mention. Fun fact: Le Beau is French for the Butte. Yep. And you know what Fred is mentioning basically feels like a knockoff of the DC villain Amazo. Amazo is basically a villain who can literally imitate the powers of all the Justice League superheroes. Yeah, that's what I thought of with Weapon 11. But yeah, this was the first time I'd seen will.i.am on screen. I didn't know that he was a singer, and I also knew him for voicing that male hippo in Madagascar Escape to Africa. Also, yeah, all the scenes in New Orleans were all filmed by a second unit crew, and were pretty much filmed in exactly one day, which is pretty cool when you think about it. Rue Bourbon. You know, I hope I can go to New Orleans one day and visit the place. Oh, yeah. I'll say. Now, of course, maybe I sound uncultured, but yeah, I was unfamiliar with Gambit until I saw X-Men Origins Wolverine. I think, X-Men Origins Wolverine was very much my first introduction to the character of Gambit. And honestly, I love this line. Yeah, and I like his purple shirt. I do like that line of, then Remy LeBeau I am, and this was also my first introduction to Taylor Kitsch. Now, Gambit made his comic book debut in Uncanny X-Men Annual number 14, as well as Uncanny X-Men number 266 in 1990. Created by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee. He was supposed to debut in X-Men number 266, but apparently Uncanny X-Men Annual number 14 got published before Uncanny X-Men number 266. Now, originally, this is a fact. Channing Tatum had auditioned for the role of Gambit in X-Men: The Last Stand, but Gambit was left out of the film. And Channing Tatum tried again to play Gambit in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but unfortunately he had to turn down the offer of Gambit because he was legally forced by Paramount Pictures to star in G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra. Now, earlier beforehand, Channing Tatum had signed a contract with Paramount Pictures to star in multiple films. And, well, he was contractually obligated to star in whatever film Paramount produced next, so he was legally forced to star as Duke in G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra. And the thing is, if he turned down G.I. Joe, Paramount would sue him for breach of contract. And so that's why Channing Tatum played Duke in G.I. Joe. And now you know, and knowing is only half the battle. Also, I definitely found John's death here to be unfair and brutal. I was like, dang, I liked him. Also, yeah, I think it's funny. I was like, I didn't recognize Taylor Kitsch as John Carter, and didn't realize he was Gambit. You know, I kind of wish that Gambit's kinetic energy was a much more brighter pink, or a brighter, like maybe a purple pink. Probably would have been a lot cooler. But yeah, when Channing Tatum had to turn down playing Gambit, Chris Hemsworth came very close to playing Gambit, but he lost out to Taylor Kitsch. I don't know if I can really... I can't really see Chris Hemsworth playing Gambit here. I mean, maybe he could have pulled off a Cajun accent, but... I just can't see Chris Hemsworth as Gambit. Chris Hemsworth worked much better as Thor, and so I think... and I'm glad to know that eventually Channing Tatum would later on get to play Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine, in one of the best X-Men suits I've ever seen, right up there with Hugh Jackman's yellow and blue Wolverine suit in Deadpool 3. But yeah, if I were to rank the suits, top 5, well, I'm not sure what number 5 would be, but number 4, Storm's costume in the X-Men trilogy. Number 3, Deadpool. Number 2, number 3 would have to be the Wolverine suit. Number 2 would have to be Gambit, and number 1 would have to be Deadpool. And I said what I said. If you know, you know. Ugh, sorry, just cracking my back a little because I am doing this while sitting on a couch. Well, a bed. My bed. Yeah, don't mess with the staff. I think he just gave him the bird. What? Oh, that's my stick, man. Yeah, the body count here is 88. Now, there was a great debate on whether to show the Alkali Lake sequence in which Logan is infused with adamantium because it was already shown in X2. Director Gavin Hood decided finally that they needed to make the scene their own, so he altered the set and increased its size, adding a second level to it to show more action and dialogue, since the scene in X2 was just used for flashback purposes. And he's like, where that motherfucker at? And there's Stryker's son. I didn't realize it at the time, but it makes perfect sense now. And of course, now he knows how Captain America felt when it comes to being frozen. I was frozen today! Yeah. Yep, I definitely remember that. That's the closest to continuity.
Out am I.
Now, of course, Scott Porter also auditioned for the role of Gambit as well. Also, not only that, but Alden Ehrenreich also screen tested for Remy LeBeau. Et tu, Brute? Now, Gavin Hood gave pictures of favelas, Brazilian shantytowns, to visual effects company Hatch Productions to assist the company in developing accurate matte paintings for the scenes in Africa. Now, production originally considered using the 1948 panhead chopper that Logan mentions at the dinner table. However, that model had no suspension, so they chose the 1964 model, which was the first one that had a good suspension system for the stunts. Even then, for the stunts in the movie, the bike was modified with an improved suspension. Now, Josh Holloway auditioned to play Gambit as well. He had been previously approached for the role in X-Men The Last Stand, but couldn't accept due to scheduling conflicts with Lost, and the character was eventually cut. Hugh Jackman felt he was right for the part in the film, but the studio preferred someone younger, and Taylor Kitsch was cast instead. Holloway was a fan of Gambit and learned card tricks to prepare for the audition. That's unfortunate. And you know, Gambit is actually an excellent pilot in various other media, including the comics and X-Men the Animated Series. Now, all of this is very much practical. Man, that's pretty scary right there. I think it just put a little bit of Cyclops in there. It's quiet in here. Too quiet. Yoo-hoo, oh Striker! Come out, wherever you are. Speaking of the devil. Yep, the Deadpool. I want to believe that Wade Wilson voluntarily did this because if it meant it would be a cure to his cancer. At least that's just my theory, at least. But of course, we know that's pretty much bull. Yep, or fridging in this case. Dun dun dun. I remember being so shocked by this. It's like, wait, she wasn't dead this entire time? I mean, at least she's not a Hydra agent here. I mean, legally she can't. Oof. If you think this is cruel, the original ending had Kayla Silverfox admitting that she was never in love with Logan the entire time, and she was just using him to get Stryker to release her sister. Wolverine then voluntarily accepts Stryker's offer of a procedure to erase his memories of her. However, this was deemed too depressing, so it was reshot to express that her feelings for him were real. The original ending can be found as a deleted scene on the DVD Blu-ray version. I do wonder how that would have been like. I mean, that definitely would have made the film much more impactful and much sadder, I think, but maybe it could have worked, or maybe it would not have worked. I don't really know. I guess the world will never know. But I'll give Hugh Jackman credit. He does a good job sounding heartbroken here. Okay. Did Ryan Reynolds play a part in... sorry, I'm just looking up a certain fact about the post-credit scene. Victor, you and I have unfinished business. Also, I should point out her sister is not the Emma Frost. Remember that now. Bryan Singer himself confirmed that wasn't Emma Frost. I thought it was too. Oh, now you figured that out? Yeah. Well, deep down, Wolverine has a soft spot for Kayla. And of course, Victor is going to learn in the worst of ways that Wolverine has some hard spots too. And, yeah, quite literally, might I add. Four. Yeet. That's gotta hurt. You know, it would have been a lot cooler if there was blood coming out, but you know, PG-13 rating and all that. Yeah. Would have been a lot funnier if he said, cheep, 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 you just a little chicken, cheep. Probably would have been a lot cooler if Wolverine was like, yuck you. Wait, why am I saying yuck you? I mean, yeah, maybe she did love him. And he certainly wouldn't. He certainly wouldn't save her if he didn't love her. Now, some of the mutants that William Stryker has captured and encaged are recognizable. Now, the tongued boy, Mortimer Toynbee, is Toad, who it's also in the first film and got struck by lightning. The teenager with the tornado is Sophia Manteca, Wind Dancer, who can summon winds. The boy vibrating in his cage is Peter Maximoff, who is Quicksilver and is the son of Magneto, and is one of the few crossover characters into the MCU. And the boy with the tape over his mouth is Sean Cassidy, who is known as Banshee and would also later appear in X-Men First Class. Yeah, there's Quicksilver, and with his white hair. He certainly doesn't look like Evan Peters. That's one way to unlock the doors. Yep, has to admit, definitely not Emma Frost, but she goes by the name of Emma. So it makes logical sense. Also, this is technically the first time Wolverine ever met Cyclops. Kinda. Even though they don't interact. Big shock. Oh, that's nice. Here we go. The thing that kind of defines this film for the worse. Weapon 11, the first cinematic introduction to Deadpool. And here, and I think during the scenes where Deadpool is, Weapon 11, he's played by stuntman Scott Adkins. And, Rob Liefeld, who created the character of Deadpool, was so incensed at the way that his character was portrayed that he wrote to 20th Century Fox demanding a reshoot. Eventually, Deadpool would get his own solo movie where he's portrayed much closer to how he appears in the comics. Also, I do like this line in which Logan says, Stryker finally found a way to shut you up. I thought that was funny, but I can totally understand why people are so incensed by this. And, it's like, I already did a full rant on how I believe they ruined Deadpool, and I still stand by what I said. I mean, honestly, which is a bigger insult to the X-Men franchise? Weapon 11 or Scott getting killed in X-Men 3? Personally, I still think it's Cyclops getting killed off in X-Men 3. But it is nice to know that, it was played with, Deadpool's sewn mouth was played with makeup effects. Don't worry, Emma will save the day! Because even though she's totally not Emma Frost. I didn't bother saying when Emma made her comic book debut because, this isn't the same Emma Frost, but I'll say the usual facts when I do a commentary companions episode for X-Men Origins, X-Men First Class. Way to go, Cyclops. But yeah, Laura Schuler-Donner also hated this depiction of Weapon 11 as well. Why? Why though? Oh yeah, to get Logan. Yeah, she should probably change her shirt to oh yeah, she got shot. Of course she did. But yeah, a lot of 3 Mile was completely practical, which I have to respect. A lot of it was achieved through doing 5 matte paintings, which I think is pretty cool. Yep, turn left. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a leader of the X-Men. Now, if only Quicksilver had gone faster. I guess he doesn't want to outrun the other mutant kids. Well, I love the X-ray we see his skeleton. It's like, of course. Whoa, boy. I can't really think of a good any. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. Yep. How you like that, bitch? Decapitate. Ooh, nice save, Sabretooth. That sounds like something Sabretooth would totally say. Oh, well, that's rude. That definitely sounds like something Wolverine would say as an experienced soldier. Oof. Okay, yeah, the CG, which Weapon 11 is constantly teleporting, is actually kind of cool, even if it might seem unfinished. I do believe Weapon 11 is also a final boss in the X-Men Origins Wolverine video game as well. And of course, this is clearly a middle finger to the fans, as his eyes resemble the diamond eyes, black eye things in his mask. It's like, that's so stupid. I didn't even realize this was supposed to be Deadpool when I saw him, and it's like when I saw the action figure to Weapon 11 known as Deadpool, I thought, wait, that's the Deadpool I saw in Hulk vs. Wolverine? That is so stupid. You know? I don't know. That's totally illogical, but I'm not totally bothered by it. Oof. That's gotta hurt. I mean, he should have a roasted hole in his chest. I mean, that's my opinion, at least. Yep. Oh, right up Main Street. Have a nice trip. See you next fall. I'll see you in the sequel. Even though you'll be a variant. And I'll be totally retconned differently. Yep, nothing could go wrong. You know, that gun kind of looks like a cowboy gun. I said what I said. That's definitely a sinister line. Yeah, I mean, I think him losing his memories through an adamantium bullet is definitely more cruel than voluntarily getting amnesia. Yep, our truce ends. I'll see you when I turn into Tyler Mane. Whee! He's gonna do a superhero landing. Or not. Timber! Yeah, you better run. Yeah, at least he didn't run away like those characters from Prometheus. Perfect timing, Gambit. And somehow he just leaves his leather jacket in that plane. But I guess later on, after the events, Wolverine would encounter Gambit and get his leather jacket back up. Its leather jacket back. And she just blimped over there and then lost her ability to walk because she was dying. Ooh, this looks fatal. I know. Hi, So Cold. I'm Tony the Happy Nerd. mean, she could have screamed in pain when being picked up. Yeah, boy walking through the sunset with his girl in his arms. If only it had ended like that. That probably would have been that's a nice money shot right there. Probably one of the few decent shots. Oh, that's just rude, Stryker. Oh, now you just let him go berserk. And that's how he got, and that's how he lost his memories. Like he said, won't kill him, but he won't remember who he is after that. Ugh. Yeah, like I said, he's very much a cruel version. But yeah, I go back and forth on whether I like Brian Cox's portrayal of Stryker or Danny Houston's portrayal of Stryker, and I think both have their own merits. That they're both unique enough to stand out on their own. Uh-oh. Well, you're in quite a predicament, Mr. Stryker. Also, yeah, I didn't realize that Lynn Collins was the Martian princess in John Carter of Mars, which I did see. John Carter deserved better. I said what I said. Maybe it could have benefited from being a TV series. Now, that's a fate worse than death. I mean, being forced to walk until your feet bleed and then keep walking? Yeah. I actually do like that he's forced to do that. It's quite an interesting comeuppance. Well, I'm dead. But yeah, I must say, it was quite a surprise to see Professor Xavier after X-Men The Last Stand. And I think he's probably using his twin brother here to walk, which makes sense. Or maybe he's using a life model decoy. Also, yeah, they filmed these scenes in Canada, where they also filmed the first X-Men film and X2. And this is the first time in which Professor Xavier appears in the solo Wolverine trilogy. He's one of the few characters to actually appear in all 3 Wolverine films, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, here's hoping none of them betray you, because we never see Emma after that. I feel like you could whistle into those holes. Well, this is weird. I woke up with a strange tattoo. Who am I? Okay, I think I'm Logan. Logan, Wolverine. It's like he's wondering how he still survives with a bullet in his head. Now, I'm wondering, did the adamantium bullets get out of Wolverine's skull, or did they were they just lodged in, stuck? You know. Yep, I'll give you back your jacket. And yeah. Oh. He's looking at the lady. Yep, who is she? Oh yeah, Kayla. Hey, at least he was in love with this version, and this version of Kayla Silverfox didn't become a Hydra agent. That would have been cruel. Nope. Which is pretty sad. in retrospect, you know? Yep. Oh, and don't forget your leather jacket, mon ami. Would have been a lot cooler if he said, good luck, mon ami. And so, Wolverine, pretty much, then leaves Stryker's Island. Pretty much lost and trying and unable to remember who he is, and pretty much trying to find clues to his past. Yep, check out this wide lens angle. Sorry, I just cannot seem to talk properly today. What's up with that? But yeah, of course, the film's far from over, as it's one of the few films to actually have 2 post-credits scenes. First one, of course, being William Stryker, who is still walking, and despite his feet bleeding, which is actually a pretty cool detail. It's like she was not kidding. Yep, I totally forgot he was also the villain in X-Men 2, you know? That's my name, don't wear it out. Oh yeah, try explaining that. And of course, I should also talk about the elephant in the room, that is the post-credits scene, which, of course, the post-credits scene with the decapitated Wade Wilson finding his body and then shushing at the audience after his mouth was pretty much torn open, which shows he's back to talking. Originally, that was actually a result of pretty much test screenings. Like Ryan Reynolds kept telling the guys at Fox that sewing Wade Wilson's mouth shut was a bad idea, and when of course Fox poo-pooed his protests, and so they pretty much they screened X-Men Origins Wolverine to test audiences, and test audiences were so pissed off with how they sewed Wade Wilson's mouth shut and how he got killed. And so they called Ryan Reynolds saying, why is this happening? Why does this have to happen? What's going on? And then Ryan Reynolds was like, I told you so. And so Fox panicked and pretty much did forced the post-credits scene in which we see at the end of the film to also tease the possibility of a Deadpool spinoff. And of course, I think, and I'll probably talk about the Deadpool spinoff later on when I do my commentary companions for the first Deadpool film. But yeah, that was one of the, I would definitely remember staying in the theater to watch that post-credit scene, because I had a feeling after watching Iron Man that I should stay for the credits if there was ever an important post-credit scene. But yeah, also, there's one post-credit scene that I remember that was never featured in the theatrical cut, but you can actually find in the on the syndicated television version on FX. It features a scene of Wolverine at a bar in Japan, and a bartender's like, what are you doing here? Are you trying to forget? And Wolverine says, well, actually, no, I'm trying to remember. And I think that's actually one of my favorite mid-credit scenes from X-Men Origins Wolverine, and I do sort of wish that it was kept in the theatrical cut. But anyway, that was my commentary companions episode for X-Men Origins Wolverine. And 16 years later, 17 years later, because it's 2026, yeah, the film may not hold up. The effects are dated, but I think the acting certainly makes up for the weak storyline and botching of characters, especially from Hugh Jackman and Liev Schreiber, as I said in my review of X-Men Origins Wolverine. And, it's sort of a guilty pleasure, but maybe it's not as great as it used to be. But yeah, it's like I can understand why Hugh Jackman was so dissatisfied with X-Men Origins Wolverine. I would be too. I mean, it deserved better. But yes, after this, I intend to do a commentary companions on X-Men First Class, which I believe is a massive improvement over X-Men Origins Wolverine. Of course, if you want a superior version of X-Men Origins Wolverine, you should play X-Men Origins Wolverine, the video game. But anyway, that was my that was my commentary companions episode of X-Men Origins Wolverine. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. As another character played by Ryan Reynolds would say, don't have a good day, have a great day.